Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Major Applications Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Eddie Lavery, the Committee Chairman. Can I do the usual administration first, please? Apologies for absence.
Sorry, there are no apologies today, Chairman.
Any declarations of interest in matters coming before tonight's meeting? No. I see Councillor Rada in the audience. No declarations from you either? No. Minutes of the previous meeting, 16th of October. Agreed, thank you very much. We are taking the agenda as published by the Head of Planning in the order it was published. There are no additional items tonight. All are in Part 1, therefore all are in public. Okay, usual administration. The fire alarm goes off, please. We will be treating it as real because no drills are planned. Fire exits are to my left, the door you came in, and then straight through the door in front of you. Down the stairs is normally the best way out, or there is an alternative fire exit behind me. Can I please ask that all mobile phones are switched off or to silent? Could I also ask that you're welcome to sit through all of tonight's meeting, but I imagine you've got interest in one or two items normally. Could I ask when you're leaving that if you leave and don't congregate immediately beyond the door, because we do need to proceed on and we have another committee that follows this one. All members have had the pack that was published about a week ago, together with plans which they will have all considered. In addition, they will receive a presentation tonight from officers together with some PowerPoints. For items 6 and 7, which are petition items, petitioners have 5 minutes to address us. Traffic lights will guide you, 4 green, 1 amber, and when you get to red, you are done. Members may choose to ask you questions, they may not. That's no significance to that. They're just seeking clarification. For any item where petitioners present, the applicant also has a right to present, regardless of whether the petitioner exercises their right or not. Applicants also get 5 minutes. Ward councillors get 3. Be guided by that. The voting members of committee tonight are, starting on my left, Councillor Morse, Councillor Duncan, Councillor Oswald, and coming down the table on my right, we have Councillor Edwards, Councillor Tackwell, Councillor Melvin, Councillor Higgins and Councillor Goddard. My brain goes blank every now and again in this game. You know the feeling. They are the voting members of committee. I, as chairman, only get a vote if they can't make their minds up, basically. So if they get a tie, you then find out which way I'm going to cast my vote. Alan Tilley is doing highway matters. Mandip Malhotra is the presenting officer. James Rogers, the head of planning, or office advice. Liz Penny is our clerk, and the lovely orange forms I can spot on chairs are feedback forms for democratic services, and they're always grateful for feedback. Glenn Egan is our legal advisor. That is everybody. So I'm going to proceed with the items. Agenda item 6, Watercress Bed, Springwell Lane, Harefield. Mind it when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Agenda item 6 is Watercress Beds. This is an application that does have an addendum, so I would draw your attention to the addition of 5 informatives. 4 of them are housekeeping, but there is a 5th informative which is for your information and also the planning inspectorate's information. So the applicant has applied for the change of use of the site to a camping site with alterations of the existing building to provide a visitor centre, erection of 7 camping pods, and associated landscaping and car parking. Now, throughout the process of the planning application, we have tried to get the application description of development amended. Now, the council can't do this unilaterally. They have to have it agreed by the applicant, and the applicant has refused to agree the change. So what we are doing is, as an informative, so for a planning inspector, should he pick up the case, advising what we think the description of development should be. So that's on page 2 of the addendum. Point number 5 tells us that what we would otherwise or have considered under this planning application. So it's much broader. It includes the retention of 2 residential properties, one of which we do not believe is lawful. There is a biomass boiler on the site, which is currently with the Planning Inspectorate for appeal. There is lots of, you'll see from the photographs that the site is not without its own complexities and enforcement history. So if I take you through the plans, this is the application site, wholly within the Greenbelt, and is bound by the River Colne, which runs alongside the site boundaries. I would almost describe it as an island because of the watercourses that run through it. So the application site on the left is as existing, so I refer to residential properties and a smaller building with a biomass boiler, which is close to the northern part of the site, and an unauthorised building in the central area of the site. The application, as I've mentioned, is for the erection of, I don't know if you can see these on the screen, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 glamping pods, or I'll show you a photo of them in a moment. An internal access road which would provide vehicular access, 18 car parking spaces, and in the centre, this, what I've referred to as an unauthorised building, is turning into what is declared as a visitor centre, so providing shower facilities, etc., in association with the campsite. One of the other things proposed as part of the planning application is that it's not only the 7 glamping pods that would be used, the remainder of the site is open for motorhomes and tents, so any number of people could visit the site and use it for the purposes of camping. If we go through, this is a further look at the proposed block plan. There's also an oak viewing platform gazebo. I guess that would form like I'm going to assume a campfire type area, communal outside, for the proposed use of the camping site. This is the layout of the proposed visitor centre. You'll note that although it's only one level of accommodation, it has a significant level, a significant roof form and a crown. So the provision for significant additional floor area at a first floor level, maybe not now, but at a later date could be possible, but it is refused on the bulk and scale and mass of this visitor centre. I did mention that there's obviously 7 glamping pods proposed. This is an image of what they look like, so they are timber in structure. There's no details of whether there's a question of whether they are fixed to the ground or actually placed on the ground. I don't think they can be placed, but I'm not here to question sort of the building control merits of the structure itself, but it's deemed to be, or the application is put forward as a movable structure, and that's what the glamping pods are proposed as. This is the elevations for the proposed visitor centre. So again, I'm not saying there is a proposed first floor, but the roof form does accommodate provision for floor area at an upper floor if need be. Further elevations, and I'll take you through the site. So this is the existing site plan, and as I mentioned, there is a lot of area of hard standing. There are some, we believe, businesses on the site. The site has been through the planning inspector, and even the planning inspector doesn't deem the site to have a lawful established use just because there are so many uses on the site. It's a complicated planning history, and we do make reference to that in the Principle of Development section 7.1. So this is the frontage of the application site, so these are the residential properties we referred to. There's lots of images of the internal of the site, so this is within the application site. Lots of vans. This is the central building that was referred to. The view over to the River Colne in the distance, which is actually very attractive, but again, it's a greenbelt environment, and we should look to be protecting it. Further photos of the application site, and I believe there are a few. Now, you will see some buildings in the distance. So, on your plans, you will see that there is existing built form on the northeastern part of away from the application site. So that isn't in the application site, but because of its verdant nature, it is highly visible to when you're looking at the surrounding area. Sorry, the pictures aren't great quality, but yes, the site is underused, has some piles and mounds of spoil around the site, but I wouldn't say it has a lawful use per se. The development will result in an increase of built footprint of 127 square metres. The footprint of the visitor centres will be 328 square metres and is considered to be excessive. The height of the visitor centre, as I've mentioned, is also unjustified for a single-storey building. The 7 glamping pods and the change of use of the whole site to a D2 campsite and the unrestricted use of associated vehicles such as camper vans, tents, add to excessive visual clutter to the detriment of the overall appearance of the site and the greenbelt location. As I've mentioned, there are 2 residential properties on the site with at least 1 not currently benefiting from planning permission. There are numerous objections raised in a petition that's been received with the full list of concerns set out at page 20 and 21 of the committee report. The application has been recommended for refusal for 8 reasons, and they are set out in the officer report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The petitioner on this one, Mr. Thorpe. If you'd like to come forward to the table, if you press the button on the middle when you're ready to start, and we will begin the timing at this end. The bit I did leave out of my opening remarks, and I didn't get reminded tonight, is this meeting is live on the Council's YouTube website. Those of you in the audience currently are not visible. Everyone around this table is, and you now are as well.
So you're saying no swearing? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for inviting me along to speak. I appreciate it. Please bear with me. This is not my area of expertise, but my research has told me to take deep breaths and picture you all naked, so apologies for that. I've got no intentions of repeating what's in the petition, which is signed by the people who are surrounding this application site, or indeed in the report that you have in your hand from the Planning Committee. What I will do is air some frustrations and fears of the residents that's bordering the site. We believe that the change in application to a camping site is just a device in the unremitting development of this site, and actually it's not a genuine camping site, 7 glamping pods submission. I looked out onto the site actually today. It's an absolute mess. I think you can see that from the pictures. It's a real eyesore. Some years ago when people moved in, it was simply a field with horses in it, and now it's a dreadful state. It's got 2 large dwelling houses on it, one with no planning permission. 2 very large single-storey buildings, one which has been recently built, which has got no planning permission. The second one has a biomass boiler in it, no planning permission. There's an enormous pile of wood sufficient to have 50 bonfires, presumably to service the biomass boiler, no planning permission. Businesses that are run on there have been and are parking for trucks. No, there's no planning permission for that, as far as I know. There's a furniture construction or facility going on, no planning permission for that. There's a photographic practice in there. I don't know whether that requires planning permission or not, but that's happening as well. There are 10 cars, 5 vans, 2 caravans, a terrapin hut, which apparently is a mobile office, but it's not moved for 10 years. There's also a boat on there. So you can see the pattern that's emerging here is that the site is being developed irrespective of what planning permission is being granted. The change in the use, we believe, is just more of the same. The 7 camping pods and the visitor centre on examination don't really hold true. The 7 camping pods don't even have areas for sleeping, if you have a look at them. They've got toilets in there with no facilities to get rid of the waste. There's no utilities supplying them. It's a little bit of a mystery. And then on the other side of the coin, there's this enormous visitor centre, which has got laundry facilities and restaurant facilities. It appears to us that the application really just wants to achieve the D2, I think that's what it is, camping site consent. As a result of that, the fear from the residents is that there'll be uncontrolled tents and camper vans and mobile homes and US-style SRVs, etc., and a large populace of revelers and campers, with the subsequent waste and rubbish, water, noise, dogs, campfires, and goodness knows what else. Our fear is that it becomes almost like a traveller community site. The people in the community which signed the petition, which has been sent through, moved into Springwell Lane in the full knowledge that it's a flood level 3's flood zone, but they were willing to take that risk on the basis that it was an area of beauty and a rural environment. Unfortunately, that vista has been destroyed by the site as it's been developed so far, and we hope and pray that the discomfort that we've received so far and experiencing so far with the nice vista turning into a wart on the landscape isn't turned into a nightmare by the granting permission of this change of use application into a campsite. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just stay there for 2 seconds. Do members have any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Could you just turn the microphone off for me? Thank you. Is there anyone here on behalf of the agent or the applicant for this one wishing to speak? Nope, that's good. Everyone's keeping quiet. Yeah, you can go back, thank you. I open it for discussion, which I think may be fairly short. Councillor Edwards, Councillor Higgins, Councillor Duncan. That should probably do it.
Mr. Chairman, I have no issues other than the matters raised within the report, which I believe is complete, and I'm minded to move that we go with the officer's recommendation on this one.
Councillor Higgins?
I would second that.
You would second that. Councillor Duncan, did you?
Yes, I'm in total agreement with that, but I'd just like to look at non-standard reason for refusal 1 and the wording. It's really just the grammar, I suppose. The proposal for the change of use of this site with associated fixed and movable structures, car parking, ancillary camping. There needs to be, I think, a slight amendment to that wording.
You mean to make it make a bit more sense?
Yes.
Is that what you were quietly trying to say?
I was.
I'm sure members would be happy if I delegate that to the head of planning to tidy up the English, because I think the essence of it is right. It's
Yes, it is. It just
phrasing.
needs to be expressed more clearly, maybe.
Yeah. A bit of grammar there for planning to work on.
And are we saying, I think we are, that this is, well, we're saying that it doesn't accord with its inappropriate development, but are we saying that it actually does harm to the green belt? Because we need, I think it's 6, isn't it? Because I think there are 2 aspects.
The word
to
green belt doesn't actually appear in that.
No, it doesn't. So,
which is what you were drawing to our attention,
yes,
of course.
Please.
Sorry.
6 refers to the conservation area matters, whereas it's reason for refusal 1, which focuses on the inappropriate development in the green
so we've got inappropriate in the green belt there. Okay, that's fine. I'll live with that.
It's 705, Chairman, on page 36. It says that impact on the green belt has been addressed in section 7.01.
Yeah, I'm not denying that it's in the report. It's just that we need to encompass that.
It's in refusal reason 1, though.
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah, no, I know you're not. I know you're not. No, it's just trying to strengthen it as much as possible so that we've got strong.
But I think we are there. I think we've got them all. I think
Yeah.
we've got 8 of them.
Good, thank you.
In that case, I am proposed and seconded, so I will therefore put it to the vote. All those in favour of refusal for the 8 reasons shown, please show. Thank you very much. That one is refused. My only comment I would pass to planning, I know this site is subject to planning enforcement and planning enforcement appeals. Perhaps I could ask that our enforcement colleagues have a look at any other matters on this site that need dealing with.
Yeah, I will take that away. Thank you,
Thank you.
Chairman.
If you could, because clearly there seems to be some other matters, and I would ask that they be looked at as well, with a view to appropriate action being taken. Okay, I'll now move to agenda item 7, land adjacent to Whiteheath Junior School, Whiteheath Avenue, Ruislip. I would comment before we start, this was subject to a member's site visit last Friday. So a number of us have actually seen this on the ground. And when you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman. The application is for a site known as land adjacent to Whiteheath Junior School. So on this map, Whiteheath Junior School is to the north and the application site is outlined in red. There are no site-specific designations. and this is the application, the site plan. The application seeks planning permission for the erection of 4 residential dwellings with associated car parking, a new vehicular crossover and associated external works. There is an addendum on this item, part of which includes a revised garden layout plan. I know it hasn't been circulated to members in advance, but I have a comparison slide showing what the change is. So we have, I can let you know that one of the plans in your pack, which is, let me see, page 236, for your information, has been superseded, and I'll put the correct plan up on the screen. Effectively, following the site visit, it was questioned whether the retention of all the trees on the application site were required. This is the actual plan in question. So plan on 236 has been superseded by this one. Effectively, the resulting change is that some of the trees that were proposed to be retained have now been proposed to be removed, and that's in order that this property here has a greater extent of usable garden area. It was one of the comments of feedback that we received. I think in addition to the removal of those, there have been additional replacement planting placed along the path to the rear and proposed along the boundary to Heath School playground. The site previously comprised 2 single-storey detached buildings. I think I have did I have an existing site plan? No. So the existing buildings were primarily located to the front, but the photographs will show them a little bit clearer. So the application proposes 4 residential dwellings, each of which are 4 bedrooms, 6 car parking spaces within the forecourt. The new vehicular crossover is on just past the junction down here. So this is the existing access into the school car park, and then a new access is created here. There was a question raised about the provision of a new crossover on the site visit, so our tree officer has confirmed that the size of the crossover, because it's an extension to number 1's existing crossover, does not have a detrimental impact on the street tree, and you'll see from the photographs it is a significantly sized street tree. One other thing to note is that there is an existing electricity substation located in the far corner of the application site. The substation company or the electricity company have been notified, and we have secured a access route into the substation, so maintained their access to ensure continuity of service. These are the proposed ground and first floor plans. You will see that at ground floor level, the 2 properties on the left have slightly deeper ground floor extensions, but the first floor of all of the properties is a reduced width the whole way across the development. This is a proposed front elevation of the buildings. Now, based on the building line, which is easier to demonstrate on this plan, they have been set back very slightly from the street frontage, but that's primarily to retain the existing hedging and landscaping along Heath Avenue. This is the front and rear elevations. One of the other things noted from the site visit was that members did not feel that render was an appropriate finish and wasn't in keeping with the character of the property, so there is strengthening of our materials condition, which clearly states that we will not accept render, notwithstanding what's on these plans, and that we will seek more appropriate materials which are in keeping with the surrounding properties. These are side elevations, so there are no upper level habitable room windows overlooking the properties. One of the other things we have ensured is that there is as little overlooking into the neighbouring playground as possible, so the oriel windows are faced away from views of the school playground. Take you through some site photographs. So this is the existing access into the car park serving the school. This is the tree that I was referring to. So to the left of the tree would be the new proposed vehicular access into the application site. A longer street view of Heath Avenue. This is number 1, Heath Avenue. You can see that there's an existing drop curb, so that would be extended in this direction for the new access to the new properties. Heath Avenue images again, and this is the intersection, so directly opposite the site frontage, and the other properties on the other side of the road on Heath Avenue. This is from within the car park, so effectively this area of hard standing and grass is the application site itself. If we pan round, this is the application site itself. So you can see the areas of hard standing, it's a bit clearer here, within the application site. So this is where the previous single-storey buildings have been demolished or were demolished in 2018, and the primary location of the new properties. This is the existing car park for the school. This is the path that runs along the northern boundary of the application site, so also the boundary of the substation. This is trying to demonstrate that there's very limited views from the road to the north of the property down into beyond the path of the application site. So I think you can just about see the metal palisade fence of the rear boundary treatment from the application site. This is an existing topographical drawing that was submitted. So the site previously comprised 2 single-storey detached buildings which have now been demolished but were used to store and repair ICT equipment at the school. These buildings were absorbed elsewhere in the school site, and therefore the buildings became redundant and fell into a state of disrepair and were demolished in 2018. There is no policy objection to the redevelopment of this site to provide residential accommodation. The site is located within an established residential area, and given the residential character, there is no objection to the development to provide residential housing. The car parking provision is 1.5 spaces per unit, which accords with the council's parking standards, and the level of movements coming in and out of the site are deemed to be limited and can be absorbed by the local highway network. We have tried to address some of the issues raised by members at the site visit, and the application is accordingly recommended for approval with just the single additional plan that I will put on the screen now for you. Thank you.
Okay, petition on this one, Ms. Caroline Applin.
Okay, good evening. I apologise if I use my hands. I am a head teacher at a special school and I am used to doing signing, so apologies, no offence meant. I am here today as a parent of children who've gone to Heath, of a local resident, and have been asked to speak on behalf of residents and parents from Heath Avenue and Heath Junior School. Although you're currently talking about land adjacent to Heath Junior School, I'd like to make the point that actually that piece of land has always been part of the school land, and although it's not being used by the school currently, I think everybody here will know that the budgets that schools have are incredibly tight. And having worked within free school bids and worked with the extensions of schools, I think we feel that it's quite short-sighted for the council to think that there may not be at some point some need to extend provision in local schools. The actual development itself of the 4 houses, I mean, on the plan itself up there, it looks quite spacious, but I'm sure that you'll agree when you look at the photograph of the actual piece of land, and obviously lots of you have been to visit, the piece of land is not substantial in size, and therefore it is an overdevelopment of the site, putting together 4 houses of terraced houses, of which there are none currently in Heath Avenue. It's unbalanced with the dormers, which I understand have been removed from one of the applications that we've seen. So there has been several of these, and as residents, we and parents have seen many significant changes. We've put in objections, and things have been added and things have been changed, but actually, you know, now the dormers are now facing on the front of the buildings, and there are no houses in the street that currently have the dormers facing the front. As a parent and as a head teacher, actually the safeguarding of the children overlooking the playground, although I agree that there has been some there have been some changes to try and to protect the children. The actual height of those buildings being 3 stories and really much more like townhouses as opposed to a 2-storey semi-detached house with perhaps a loft space. They look much more like townhouses, and actually in today's climate we should be protecting our children and we should be ensuring that we are taking their safeguarding seriously. You are probably aware of the ongoing traffic management chaos that the local residents and the school face, and we're grateful that you came for a visit, but we really wish that had been either at 9 o'clock or at between 3 and 4, because there has already been petitions, one of which has already been brought to council about the danger and the health and safety of the number of traffic that goes up and down that road. Whiteheath Avenue itself is a dead end, and so, you know, when parents go past, there is nowhere for them to turn. There is a second petition that is about to be brought to the council because of the concern of the welfare of residents and children who are going to school. So I've noticed it's gone amber, so I will finish there. But on behalf of all the parents, on behalf of all the parents and the residents, we really do ask you to look and think seriously about the application that's gone in. You know, if it had maybe been 2 houses, I don't think that, you know, potentially there would have been as much concern, but actually 4 houses in that small space of land, and taking land potentially away from the children that could be given back to the children for them to use for forest schooling, for outdoor play, for their well-being, is something that really, with mental health being high on our agenda, we should be thinking about giving it back to the school and not taking it away. Thank you.
Do members have any questions they wish to raise? No, it's all right. I didn't get any. Oh, microphone. Oh, sorry. Could I ask you just turn that microphone off for me, though, please? Thank you. Right. No agent or applicant on this one, but a ward councillor.
Chairman, I'm sorry to not have mentioned earlier, and I'm not sure if it is a relevant interest, but I'm a governor of Whiteheath Infant School. That's not the school which is adjacent to this site. It's on Ladygate Lane. It's further up the road. I am sorry, and we might want to err on the side of caution and just include that detail.
Before you start, I will ask my legal advisor for comment.
Can I ask for clarification, Chairman? Was the school consulted on the planning application?
I imagine they were, yes.
In which case there's an interest there, Chairman. There's a non-pecuniary interest. If the school's affected by the development, there's a non-pecuniary interest there.
Their rules are out. Yeah.
So I can't comment on that.
Sorry. No, those are absolute standard rules that a councillor can speak on things in their ward, but if they have other interests in it, and I myself have had this with projects and schools I've been involved in, you cannot join in the debate or speak because, and we have to apply that consistently to everybody. I am sorry, but the legal officer has ruled, and I will respect his ruling.
Chairman, to protect the councillor there.
Yeah, it protects the council, it protects everybody, that we are taking the decision objectively and there are no other influences at play. Okay. It would have been good to have heard from ward councillors, but I think I could probably suspect where they were probably objecting to this. Well, I can't. If ward councillors are unavailable, they need to make arrangements, and again, we've facilitated that in the past on my committees. Okay, in that case, I'm going to take this open to members to begin debate. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I was struck by the petitioner and, in particular, the impact of this development on the street scene. And having stood there and visited the scene, this terrace property would be completely atypical of the street scene. Not only is it terrace where none exists, but also just the massing at the front is completely out of kilter with the rest of the massing in the street. So I have some concerns about it. Importantly, an issue that I don't believe has been properly addressed in the report, and I may look for a little bit more further information on, is about the impact on the residential amenity of the neighbouring property number 1. It is quite a large wall that is going to be extending quite a distance down their rear garden, and I would like to know how this impacts in terms of overshadowing and sunlight, and particularly on the patio area of the property, which I believe is a consideration. The report doesn't contain that information, and it would be helpful before I could arrive at a final conclusion for that additional information to be available. Thank you.
Okay. I know it's not in the report because I haven't seen it, so I'll hold that thought. So at the moment, you've raised concerns regarding the massing, the terrace, and the overshadowing. Okay.
And also part of the character, I think the dormers to the front at the upper level is completely out of character, and I actually think sets a dangerous precedent in the street.
Okay, thank you. I wondered if that one was going to come out, so I'm glad that's come out on the table. Right, anybody else want to add any comment to this one? Councillor Duncan.
It's just a small point, Chair, but in terms of the plans that are before us, there's a window, side window at first floor level, which isn't shown on the elevations. And
can you give me the plan numbers just to help me?
Page 240.
Page 240. It shows the side windows at ground floor and at roof level. It doesn't show them at first floor level. They are. They're here. They're first floor.
At first floor level. There's a question.
So I think the plans are...
You're suggesting the accuracy may not be 100%.
I am.
Very, very gently tonight.
And also that, although it says obscure glass to windows, it doesn't say that they're non-opening. So I think that there could be issues of...
You're right. I'm just going to check my conditions list and just see what's in there. It does say glaze panel of Oriel. I know. High level. 14 may cover it. High level windows, the side elevation, first floor windows, the front elevation serve the bathroom shall remain obscured glazed. Yeah, I think that needs looking at. Would be my thought. Because if there are any, they do need to be obscured, glazed, and non-opening, and the plan's correct. Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, I think that is a bit of a problem. The site visit was useful, and let's not forget that originally this was for 5 units, and it's been reduced down to 4. I actually thought it was quite a good fit, but listening to what's been said tonight, plus the fact that the plans that we've got that we're supposed to agree are not correct. So I think, Chairman, we should defer this and get some correct plans, and that means the report will also change, so we'll have a more accurate report. No reflection on anybody that's put this report together. I must make that absolutely clear. So I'll move deferment, Chairman, so that we can get some more details, a correct set of plans, which is what we base our decision on. It's what's in front of us, and that's the plans and the report. So I'll move that, Chairman.
Okay, and we have whilst it's being relooked at, obviously members have raised concerns regarding the massing of the terrace, overshadowing in particular, dormers, as well as windows as a whole. So, yeah. Councillor Higgins, did you want to add something to that before I move? You're going to second.
I'll second it.
James, do you want to come?
I was just going to concur that as soon as Councillor Duncan raised her points, we cross-referenced. There is a problem, so we're into deferment territory because of the plan error. So I certainly wouldn't be arguing in any way with members on that. And
Good.
So if I understand it right, a daylight sunlight
Daylight sunlight.
report, which is something we can ask an applicant to do, a technical report that looks at the impact on
Yep.
number one.
Number one in particular is the one we're concerned about.
And I'm picking up a number of comments that if I were to take away and speak to the applicant and get revisions to the plans, that there's clearly some member concerns regarding the scheme.
Correct. Councillor Duncan.
And as part of that, looking at the plans, I notice on page 235, it shows property number one, which differs in shape. They appear to have been drawn as just standard cubes, if I can express it that way, rather than as they're shown on the OS sheet. And the 45-degree line is drawn from the furthest point on number one, and that may be correct.
The argument was, I think the other one was a bathroom, but I think that was the argument in the report.
Yes, but also these don't mirror the shape of the building as shown on the OS sheet, which is probably more accurate. So if that could be checked as well.
So you're questioning whether that 45-degree line is indeed correct?
Yes.
Which I think is a valid concern. If the OS is showing, well, the OS does show something different because I've just looked at it.
But also the depth of the property here, we don't know that it's shown accurately on the submitted.
Well, I will ask that be
plan.
reviewed.
Do you see, compared with the OS sheet?
Well, in fact, they're all, if you look at the OS, the first two semis are bigger than the next two, and according to this, they're all drawn in a block.
That's my point.
Indeed. Point well made. So I think we'll ask for that to be rechecked. So that's a plan accuracy check, please, because that 45-degree line, as well as the concerns raised by Councillor Edwards about potential overshadowing in the bulk of that wall, that 45-degree line is absolutely critical, because if that isn't met, that is, I'm afraid, another issue that will need to be unravelled.
Yeah.
Right, it is proposed that this be deferred. All those in favour of deferral, please clearly indicate to me. Thank you very much indeed.
Through you, Chairman, sorry to interrupt you, can you just advise whether there's allowed to be another petition or not on the when it comes back?
Yeah, I'm about to do the honours. Just for information of those in the audience, this will now be deferred to a future meeting of this committee. It may or may not be necessary if the results of this. There are some technical things that are wrong with this report and the plans, so they can be corrected quite easily. But if the rest of the discussions, it may result in a need for some more consultation, but that will be a matter for the head of planning.
I'm almost certain there's going to need to be a round of further reconsultation, because there's quite a lot of notes I'm taking, basically.
Okay, so there's potentially further consultation to be had with residents. Your right to speak on a petition has been used tonight, therefore if you wish to speak again you would need to put a new petition into us, and obviously hopefully on the next occasion there'll be a ward councillor available, because obviously the diaries may well work. So I can't predict when this will return to planning, because it depends how much needs to be done, but you'll get the appropriate notice as you have this time. Okay, and I will with that move on to agenda item 8, which is land at Cessna Road, Heathrow Airport, Hounslow. Oh, sorry. Absolutely. I think you did it. Yeah, we did. I thought I'd done it. I just did the speech afterwards. Yeah, you asked. Did. Land at Cessna Road, Hounslow. This is a very straightforward landscaping reserve matters application in relation to a building down on the airport, and for those of you who've looked at the plans, the amount of landscaping is limited, would be a word I'd use.
I move the officer's recommendation.
That's what I was hoping you would say. I was hoping you'd also do that, Councillor Morse, for me. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. I'll dispose of item 8 then. I can't do the same with the rest of the agenda, but I'll keep it moving. Agenda item 9, Unit 2 to 4, Airport Gate, Business Centre, Bath Road, Heathrow.
Thank you, Chair. Item 9 is Unit 2 to 4 Airport Gate. The application seeks the change of use of the existing Airport Gate industrial site from a B1C and B8 use class to B1C, B2 and B8 for units 2 to 4, effectively just seeking a greater variety of uses to allow for greater opportunities for finding an occupier. The proposals also seek to reclad the exterior of the building. There are some internal alterations to the first floor and alterations to the access and car parking layout to the service yard. If I take you through the application plan, so this is the site location. The application only relates to, as I mentioned, units 2 to 4, but the wider site has units 1 through to 7. So the other site units have been subject to various planning applications for minor alterations, but this was the one that triggered a major application coming to planning committee. I'll take you through the plans. I would admit they're not exciting plans. So we have some road layout plans, so internal realignment within the site. Probably not something that anyone would notice unless you were actually visiting the site. Existing site plan, so you'll see that the existing site plan changes very slightly to have more landscaping, which is positive, and realignment of the car parking and service bays. These are the existing ground and first floor plans and roof plan. And then you have proposed ground and first, proposed roof plan, and then elevational treatments as existing, and then proposed elevational treatments. I think you'd only really see or notice them if you were actually at the application site itself. Again, I did mention there is additional landscaping being proposed at the application site, which is always a positive enhancement to our industrial areas, and a general arrangement for the landscaping of the site. If I take you through some photographs, so these are the existing sheds, which will be reclad and maybe look a bit prettier with some landscaping. The application has been recommended for approval. It does involve a comprehensive refurbishment and recladding of the buildings. There is a small loss in floor space. However, the proposal provides a more efficient and productive layout to meet the needs of future occupiers. So whilst we wouldn't really encourage loss of employment floor space, it is marginal and would hopefully attract more investors into the borough. Car parking spaces provided exceed our local plan requirements. However, they are clearly necessary insofar as they exist already, just a reconfiguration. The proposals do not result in harm to the amenities of neighbours and the local highway network, and approval is recommended. Thank you.
Who wants to start me off? Councillor Higgins.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't really have an issue with this, really. All I have is one issue is that on the building materials, can we make sure that, I don't know, obviously the cladding always sort of rings not very nice to me, so can we just make sure that the materials are fire retardant and all those various bits of those?
The question of have I strayed too far into building control, or can we do something?
Well,
I would agree with your sympathies.
It's the materials, it's just to make sure
that
materials are of that standard, please.
So we can add an informative in respect of that. However, we did consult the building control team informally, but those fire regulation requirements are only in relation to residential developments. So that's why this falls into a slight grey area. But we can add an informative.
I think an informative would be helpful.
Yeah, I just think this is just a recipe waiting for disasters to happen. It's just there is offices there is people working in there. I don't think it's...
No, I don't disagree with your sentiment. I'm just trying to make sure I can do something I'm
informative
compliant.
I'd be quite happy with.
You'd be happy with. Any other hands? Councillor Moore, sorry.
I note that we're only giving 20% of recharging for HGV vehicles. Now, they are a major source of pollution. Can we not go higher in terms of this? Because obviously, even with 2 runways, we're getting expansion, but even with 2 runways, these vehicles are a considerable source of pollution, and I think it's something we should look at.
In terms of policy, are we able to push for more? There's a highways question. I did promise you none, but there's one.
Thank you, Councillor. The car parking standards with regard to electric vehicles only refer to private cars. The London plan doesn't have any provision for heavy goods vehicles.
So in that case, I'll turn the question around. If it doesn't, because I was thinking London plan might constrain me to what I might wish to do. we've got an operator travel plan that says this is where I think you're coming from.
Yeah.
These will include the provision of heavy-duty electric fast charging bays, at least 20% of total HGV usage. Why have we gone for 20%? I think was councillor's question, and was questioning they undoubtedly do cause a chunk of pollution. Is there any constraint that stops us going higher than that? There's a question. I'm putting it in a positive way around.
I don't believe there is, however, I'm sure that the applicant will resist that. Now, we normally impose a travel plan plus a bond, but because of the nature of the development, it's no additional built floor space. It felt like an unnecessary or a hindrance on the development. I would argue that we would, if it had been a new development, we might have pushed for greater than 20%. But I personally wouldn't recommend it now. I'm worried that if we were to appeal against that condition, I'm not sure we'd be successful because there isn't really a policy ground or basis.
It's widening the use out. So I think that's, so you're going to have different traffic generation, vehicle generation. So it would be reasonable to assess that at that time. I mean, it's a number of units here. We're talking about quite a large area, aren't we? And we are meant to be looking to the future.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that is government policy, not just local policy.
I think everybody's
so it's
travelling in the same direction, maybe
yeah.
different speeds.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't been out there. You want to come back in?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm agreeing with the opposition of the side, actually. I think why not let's have a go and see where it goes. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's in the Heathrow area. We have massive pollution
Massive
areas.
problems down there, yeah.
And you know, why not? If there's nothing telling us we can't, let someone tell me I can't. So
it is a change of use application. So I accept the building currently exists, but I would view this as not a simple refurbishment. It's a change of use. So they're asking to do something new with their building, probably because what they're currently doing isn't working. Would be my, because you wouldn't argue otherwise. You'd just leave it. You'd do a bit of cladding on the outside and leave it at that. Councillor Morse, you want to come back in?
Just to reiterate my point, if for 20 years we've had this, 50% of the pollution is coming from this location, and heavy-duty vehicles are a key target, and they're going to be a key issue in trying to contain it. What about reducing it? I mean, hopefully we could retain it.
We might go the other way.
I
accept your point.
This would not be a prohibitive condition in terms of the developer, because I think that they will have to go to these electrical vehicles anyway. We'll have actually just moved in front of them.
Good, James?
What I'd quite like to do is to liaise with Val Beale, our air quality officer, to get her to come up with a justification how we could increase it. And then once we've done that, if it was delegated to Chairman and Labour lead, I could then, if members are happy to delegate the final wording of this condition, what I would then aim to do is, after speaking to Val and getting her scientific input, I'd then be able to say why it should be 25, 35, 45, whatever it would be.
I think
but my task to Val would be, members want this up, please can you give me the justification.
The sentiment of members is absolutely, and I would go along with that sentiment, is that we would want to see it higher, particularly in a lot of locations, but this location in particular, because of we know that the air quality in this part of the world is poor, very poor.
And in terms to help the office of negotiation, because we will also need to engage with the applicant. If it's subject to Chairman and Labour lead, that sometimes gives me a bit more
flex.
Okay,
we'll play with that. Councillor Higgins?
Yeah, Chairman, I totally agree with what you're going on, but I think we need to sort of give the correct message to officers that we are not looking for a small increase, we're looking for a substantial increase. You know, putting 2% on or something like that is just not going to be acceptable.
Well, I think if it comes back at that level, it'll be sent back here for further public debate, because I can't see myself and the Labour lead signing off on the 2% on this one. No, I think it's highly unlikely. Knowing Councillor Morse as well. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. It was just really a matter of semantics. It says that there should be a greater percentage than 4% for disabled parking, and there should be a condition. And it is called accessible car parking, I believe, condition 7. Is that correct? And it says illustrating a minimum of 19 accessible.
Which I think is probably 10%, is it?
So is that what we're calling this now? Accessible?
Yeah, but is that the new word for what we all understood as disabled parking bays?
Yeah, normally they're marked as disabled parking bays. And
is that a
people
new phrase that's entered the world?
Thank you, Chairman. What we might have called disabled parking could be called blue badge parking, or could be called wheelchair accessible parking. Probably blue badge parking captures the sentiments of what you're saying.
It's just that the comments were that 4%, should be increased in order to comply with current policy. That's on page 107.
I think whilst we've got this one bounced out for some checking of conditions, I think I'll ask the head of planning just to.
But can it just be more user friendly, simple?
Yeah.
Do you know? I mean, people reading accessible parking would just mean, oh, it's big enough to get my car in. You know, I mean,
that would be accessible. And in some car parks, that would be an improvement.
Let's just say what it is.
I know. I would agree. I think the wording of that needs to be standard in terms of what we normally use, not the use of the next invention.
Can be understood by.
Councillor Edwards, you want to come in?
Thank you, Chairman. Just two issues. I'll take the disabled parking, because I understand what they're saying. Because this is going to be an industrial site, I wonder whether or not a 10% of parking is too onerous on the applicant, and whether or not a more reasonable level of parking, probably building on what their existing level of disabled parking is. That's an aside. That's just a slightly different take. Otherwise, I think there'll be unused disabled parking, or it will be abused because people will have to use it because there isn't other parking. So I would like that to be reconsidered. The issue for me is about the extended use. We're now going into industrial, not suitable for a residential area. And yes, okay, this isn't necessarily a residential area. I agree with that. And it is still a noisy area because it's got an airport. However, there is a property within, it says 70 metres. Now, if it is noisy, general industrial going in there, I would have some concerns, and therefore I believe there should be some constraint on the noise generation from this site.
Comments, and you'll tell me about aircraft, but or something, large things with lots of engines that make some noise from time to time.
The applicant has lodged a noise impact assessment, and whilst we don't have EPU comments, we can chase for them, but our own analysis of the noise report does say that the background noise levels are such that there wouldn't be an incremental change, and I think that's also echoed in the negligible change to highway movements.
I would be very comfortable with a condition that required that. And then they can live with what they're saying they're going to deliver. That's fine.
Effectively is what the councillor is asking for to happen. Condition 3, they've got to comply with the noise report they've submitted.
Then that's fine.
So they've done it. So fine. Councillor Duncan.
Just to come back on the point that Councillor Edwards
because that's the last outstanding point on this one.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Regarding disabled parking. There's a change of use, so there's going to be office content approved in here, and there are many people who are disabled or who need disabled parking, who would be able to work in an office environment. I agree in certain industrial and warehousing uses that may be more difficult for disabled people. Also, if you've got offices, you're going to have visitors, some of whom may require that. And we're not asking for anything more than our current policy. That was why I raised it, because it said current policy.
I think that's been conceded, so I think we'll stick the debate. We'll leave the debate exactly there. This is coming back. This is going to be delegated, if senior members approve it in a moment, it needs to come back to the Chairman and Labour lead regarding condition 6, and in particular the electric vehicle component of that, and member steer is very clear. They are seeking substantial improvement in that. And also the wording to condition 7, I'm quite happy to leave that to the head of planning to sort out, but needs tidying up to what we normally understand. Councillor Higgins.
I don't know if any was proposed this actually. So
No, I was summarising before we did.
I'll propose it. But also, can we just ask officers in future that if we do have developments like this in this area, that the thing that we're asking for, if we're allowed, is put through to further applications?
Well, one would. Yes, that's a very valid request, Councillor Higgins. I'm sure we will get others in this area. A seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Melvin. I did see a number of hands, but I'll take those too. All those in favour, please clearly show me. Thank you. That one is approved, subject to those conditions coming back. Agenda item 10, the World Business Centre, 5 Newell Road, Heathrow Airport. Seems to be a theme to tonight's reports.
Thank you, Chair. This is the World Business Centre number 5. So we've seen at Planning Committee over the last few years, World Business Centre 1, 2, 3 and 4. We will soon see some photos of them. There is a brief addendum on this application, which is seeking outline planning permission only for the erection of an office building. I will take you through the proposed plans. So we are located on the southern side of the Bath Road, so for reference purposes, the application site is accessed not via Bath Road but via Newell Road, which is via the internal perimeter road. This is the Bath Road running along the northern perimeter, and then you have the Marriott Hotel. I don't think it's called the Skyline Hotel, but whatever, there's another hotel on the other side. Running through the plan, so you will see the World Business Centre numbers 1, 2, 3 and 4, which have all been built out. And then World Business Centre 5 is the last in the, well, I'm not going to say the last in the series, the 5th in the series to be built along this stretch. And it's proposed to be a further office. Because it's within the Heathrow perimeter boundary and within the Heathrow area, we are proposing a condition to secure it to be Heathrow-related businesses, which is the same proposals for World Business Centres 1 to 4. Again, this is an outline application with all matters reserved, but we have got indicative plans of basement car parking, illustrative floor plans for the floors above, which, as an office building, will be fairly open plan. These are the maximum height parameters proposed under the outline application, which are effectively guided by the NATS constraints, and NATS and HAL have raised no objection to the proposals, subject to various conditions which are imposed on the recommendation. This is a bird's eye view of the application site. If I take you through some of the photographs. So this is the opposite side of the site. So yes, that is the Skyline, and then that's the Marriott. So the application site's on the left-hand side behind the trees. This is one of the World Business Centres that has been built out. Probably number 4. That's the front elevation along the Bath Road. Internal photos of the site. And here you can see the series of buildings which comprise the World Business Centre sites. This is the application site when you're viewing it from the internal perimeter road and Newell Road, so facing out onto the Bath Road. Just some examples of what has been approved. We do envisage that this will be the similar building design to the others, but that is reserved for future applications. So this is an application for the 5th in a series of the World Business Centre office buildings. All matters have been reserved for subsequent approval. The scheme is acceptable in principle, subject to the condition mentioned earlier about the occupier being an airport-related company in accordance with the existing and emerging planning policies. Indicative plans show a building with a similar footprint, siting and design to the adjoining World Business Centre number 4 building, and it would have an additional floor than that of the adjoining building, although would be similar in overall height by virtue of having reduced the floor-to-ceiling heights only. The indicative plans do show sharing of the existing access ramp, so no new one is proposed, leading down to a basement car parking area. The statutory consultees, both internal and external, have raised no objection, and the application is recommended for approval, subject to referral back to the Mayor of London. Thank you.
Views on this one, Councillor Oswald?
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Councillor Goddard has seconded. Did anyone have anything they wanted to raise on it? No. All those in favour, please clearly show. Thanks very much. That one's approved. 51 Belmont Road, which seems to be back before us on an ongoing and regular basis. This, I think, is best described as a tidying up application.
That's exactly it. So last planning committee, we approved a planning application. I believe it was for the infill and the increase in the number of units at the site. Now, in order to build that development out, they need to change the original planning permission, so the prior approval that gave them permission to change the building from office to residential use in the first place, because they are losing car parking. So I will scoot through the plans. Previously, the planning drawings for the prior approval showed car parking in the basement. We are now removing the car parking, securing a permit-free development via a legal agreement, but there is still disabled or accessible spaces provided within the rear of the site. So although, because it's a town centre site, we don't need the parking, they do need to do the admin of tidying up their consents, and that's what this application effectively is. But we are retaining the disabled parking on site, hence the reason the application has been recommended for approval. There is an addendum on this item, primarily because a decision must be made by the 18th of December under the current GPDO order of 2015. Therefore, if the legal agreement is not signed by that date, the council are duty bound to refuse it, or a deemed consent is issued to the council, and we wouldn't get our legal agreement. The application is recommended for approval subject to that agreement.
Councillor Duncan?
Move officer's recommendation.
Councillor Edwards, are you going to second for me? All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's everybody. Last item on this agenda, agenda item 12, Packet Boat Marina, Packet Boat Lane, Cowley.
The application at Packet Boat Marina is for the change of use of 25 existing moorings from leisure use to residential use with associated works. The associated works are for the residential moorings to effectively have sufficient car parking spaces to serve them as residential properties rather than sharing the leisure car park which exists on site. There are also other improvements in and around the site. I'll go through the site plans now. So the application site is wholly within the green belt, and we have canal running along its eastern boundary. The markings here are the moorings, so where the boats are located. This area to the north is the car park. I'll take you through to this plan. So this is the site layout. So the existing site plan shows where the residential parking is, which is behind an existing gate. So this is the parking for the leisure users, also for the general public, should they wish to visit the marina, and this is specifically cordoned off for the residents. So there is an existing element of residential use on the site. The proposed layout does change that layout both in the visitor area as well as the residential area to ensure that there is adequate car parking, refuse facilities, cycle parking stands. It's a general upgrade. We are also able to secure now sufficient disabled car parking as well as electric charging points at the application site. I'll take you through. These are some technical details. This is the cycle store that's proposed. One of the things that we wanted to ensure was that there was adequate turning. One of the concerns that the council have is when we have been on site, there is, I don't want to call it unregulated, there is regulation, there is a management company looking after the marina. However, the boats don't seem to appear that it would be very easy to move around if you wanted to come in and out of the site. So we secured this plan to ensure that certain areas of the site are always kept free of vehicles to ensure that you can get in and out of the site. And we are also imposing conditions on the maximum number of vessels. There's been lots of debate about what words to use during the course of this application on this site. We have also secured landscaping plans. So previous consents didn't actually have conditions discharged, so this one has sought to tidy up all of that. We didn't really feel necessary to impose enforcement action, primarily because the works had actually been carried out, the paperwork hadn't been sorted out, as is invariably the case. The application is recommended for approval for the change of use of the 25 moorings. Thank you.
We've got a couple, yeah. Some photos, pretty photos of them. Councillor Higgins.
I'll go with officer's recommendation.
Councillor Oswald.
Yeah, I'll second, Chairman, thank you.
Nobody else? No? Good. All those in favour, please clearly show me. Thank you very much. That one's approved. Thank you. 7:07. Thank you very much. We're done.